What's up, sisters? This is your boy, Pork, and welcome back to the channel for another modded companion build guide for Baldur's Gate 3. I hope you're all having a fantastic day, because today we are diving into the Mystic class to craft an extremely powerful build for our favorite Githyanki, Lae'zel of Koresh Kalir. Before we get into it, thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you liked this build by liking the video and subscribing for more videos like this. If there's any build guides that you want to see, let me know in the comments down below. But without further ado, let's get building. So as a Githyanki, Lae'zel is a legitimately hardcore warrior. She was raised effectively in a death cult, since Vlaakith kinda sucks big time. She uses two-hand great weapons by default and prefers to strike first and talk later. Githyanki are also known for their use of psionics. They even have Githyanki war magic as a racial bonus. Gith also have access to several pieces of gear throughout the game that provide buffs and damage boosts to the wearer if they are Gith, most often in the form of extra psychic damage or proficiency in different mental saving throws and things like that. Because of all of this, we have a few options for Lae'zel's character class. For the purposes of this guide, I'm going to be speccing her out as a mystic. For the purpose of this guide, however, I'm going to be speccing her out as a mystic. This modded subclass is known for its ability to use psionics for basically anything you want to do. As the Mystic class comes from Unearthed Arcana and not from officially released D&D 5th edition content, the Mystic class as a whole is very strong, especially so with within the context of Baldur's Gate and the Mystic expansion mod. Alternatively, you could always stick with her default class, the Fighter, and grab a mod which imports the Psi Warrior Fighter, since it is a properly released D&D subclass inspired by the psionics of the unreleased Mystic class. Additionally, there are other fully custom modded classes, like the Mindweaver, which focuses on psionics. One of the Mindweaver subclasses is called Forceblade and uses psionics to imbue your weapon with force energy and comes with a bunch of custom abilities, which is very similar to the Mystic. However, we are taking the Mystic for the purpose of this video. In order to use the Mystic class for this build, you're going to need the Mystic class mod as well as the Mystic expansion. These two mods are going to give us access to the class, first of all, as well as open up a ton of new abilities, and they'll also give us a few items that are tailor-made specifically for these two subclasses. When we start at level 1, we are obviously going to be starting by taking the Mystic class, which I have down here at the bottom. This is going to give us access to 2 psionic talents and a psionic discipline to start, but I prefer to start my Mystic builds with the subclass. And we have 2 options here, really. We have the Order of the Blade, which is a melee-focused subclass that channels psionics through your weapon and focuses less on spell casting and will give us extra attack at level 6, you can see here. The Order of the Avatar is the other subclass that I would think about taking, since it gets access to some really cool area buffs that you can apply to your team, like the Avatar of Battle, projecting an inspiring aura giving nearby allies +1 to initiative, or the Avatar of Healing. It's an aura that gives you enemies 2 hit points extra whenever they get healed. Really cool things, but at the end of the day, I am going to be taking the Order of the Blade because you can swap fighting styles pretty much at will as soon as you get War Adept, a feature at level 3 when wielding a weapon that matches your chosen fighting style from Mystic Arsenal. Use your intelligence modifier for attack and damage rolls. You can also use your intelligence modifier for your attack and your damage rolls, so everything is going to be scaling off of our intelligence score. Speaking of which, for our ability scores, since intelligence is our main statistic, we are going to want to put a +2 into it so that we can get it up to 16. Additionally, we are going to use our +1 in dexterity so that we can also bring that up to 16. As you can see there. Having our dexterity at 16 is going to give us a +3 to our armor class and our initiative. Once we get an piece of armor that can add the additional +3, it'll be +2 up until we get armor that will give us that ability. For Constitution, we're going to want 14 points. For Wisdom, we're going to go with 12. I usually go with 12 here, mostly for saving throws. And for Strength and Charisma, we are going to be dumping them to 8s because we do not really need them that much for this build. We don't need Strength because we don't really need much here because Intelligence is our primary attack scale. And Charisma, this character isn't going to be talking to anybody, so we don't really need that anyway. So with the Mystic class, psionic talents are more or less the Mystic equivalent of cantrips. These spells have a lot of crossover with the base game cantrip list, as well as a few new options. For instance, we have Mystic Hand, manipulate objects with your mind. Or we have Delusion, plant a false belief in the targeted area, summoning a simulacrum that compels nearby creatures to investigate. These 2 spells are basically Mage Hand and Minor Illusion. So you can see there's a little bit of crossover here, but there's also Beacon, infuse yourself with bright light. You can choose the emissive color. It's kind of like the light spell, but fully customizable. And instead of imbuing your weapon with light, you imbue yourself with light, which is really cool. It means you can free up your hand for wielding whatever you want to wield. However, for this level, we are going to take Illusion and Mystic Hand, just because I want to. And for our first psionic discipline, we are going to have a huge list to choose from and only one that we can pick for the time being. Our disciplines are effectively how we choose our skills and how we build our character's abilities. For instance, the Crown and Mantle abilities up here, like Mantle of Fear, Mantle of Fury, Crown of Regret, Crown of Rage, they all kind of deal with emotions and kind of crowd control and different abilities like that. And they are unique to, and they're kind of built around the Order of the Avatar subclass. There's also a few spells like the Mastery of Air, Mastery of Fire, Mastery of Gravity. These tend to focus on elemental damage because these are tailor-made for the Wu Gen subclass, which is a elemental damage sort of mage sorcerer type class. And additionally, the nomadic disciplines here are from the Ranger style subclass, and so on. As an Order of the Blade, we don't start with extra disciplines, we just get this one to start, which is both a blessing and a curse. We don't need very many to operate, but we can also only pick one for now. But the first discipline that this build should take is definitely Psionic Weapon. This is going to be our the crux, the kind of core of our build. You have learned how to channel psionic energy into your attacks, lending them devastating power. This is obviously kind of our main thing. We start here by gaining our psychic focus, which is a buff that we apply to ourselves. Each of the different disciplines comes with a psionic focus that we can only choose one at a time. This one is going to be pretty much the main one that we're going to use. We're also going to get Ethereal Weapon, which is a really cool bonus action ability that allows you to still deal half damage upon missing a target during the 10 turns that this effect is active. We have Lethal Strike, which is a bonus action and costs psi points, and it is kind of like the a bonus action smite version of or applying psychic damage to your weapon. Imbue your weapons with psychic energy. Your next weapon attack will deal an additional 1d10 psychic damage. You can eventually upcast this to do 2d10, 3d10, 4d10, 5d10, 6d10. It gets kind of crazy. We also have Augmented Weapon, which is going to be, once we get access to it, the way that these work is you can see here 1, 1, 1, 5. The 5 one, we're not going to be able to get until we can spend 5 psi points at a time. All of these ones, we can spend 1 psi point at a time and do them easily. The same is true for all of these, 1, 2, 3, 5. And there's a bunch of other ones like that. But Psionic Weapon, we're going to get Augmented Weapon at once we can spend 5 at a time. And this one will allow us to infuse a weapon with psionic energy. The weapon becomes magical, receiving a +3 bonus to attack and damage rolls. That's awesome, and makes our weapon super powerful, great hit chance, and even higher damage rolls. It also applies until long rest, or until we lose concentration, because this is going to be a concentration spell. So this is a perfect thing for us to basically just start our day with by concentrating on and never stop concentrating on it, unless you get pushed out of concentration. But if you don't, then we're fine with this. That pretty much does it for level 1, so let's go ahead and move on up to level 2. When we get to level 2, the Mystic class is going to gain access to a couple of goodies. Starting off strong, we get Telepathy, which basically just gives us Detect Thoughts at all times. We can just read minds now, for free, no issue. Theoretically, it makes sense as a psionic space class, but it's pretty powerful. We also get Mystical Recovery. After spending psi points, you can spend a bonus action to regain hit points equal to 1 plus half your Mystic level. So if you don't have anything else that you want to do on your bonus action, you can go ahead and just kind of regain some more psi points so that you can keep going and do more abilities later. That is, however, most of what you get at level 2. So we are going to go ahead and move on to level 3. So when we reach level 3, we are going to get access to our first subclass feature called War Adept. When wielding a weapon that matches your chosen fighting style from Mystic Arsenal, you use your intelligence modifier for attack and damage rolls. Additionally, gain an additional ability based on the fighting style chosen from Mystic Arsenal. The one that we're going to be focusing on here is Great Weapon Fighting Psychic Smite. This one basically just gives us access to a psychic damage smite, which we can use. It's just a new ability that we get, which is really awesome. You could also switch out to dueling and get Psychic Flourish. You could use archery and get Psychic Barrage. I've actually used this in another build, where you can just shoot off like 8 shots in a single turn, or even up to 20, 30. It's kind of crazy how many shots you can do in one turn. And the Thrown Weapon Fighting is one that I'm also really interested in doing, but allows you to do a Psychic Shockwave on hit, which is really cool. But we are going to be taking the Psychic Smite from Great Weapon Fighting, but we can also just trade it out. For our next choice of Psionic Talent, it's pretty much up to you, whatever you want, or whatever your party needs. Beacon is my choice here, because it's really great for getting us through Act 2, any of the areas where things are dark and we want to stay light. Great option here. And for our psionic discipline, we are going to want to take Celerity. This is a really awesome ability, or just a really awesome discipline. You channel psionic power into your body, honing your reflexes and agility to an incredible degree. the world seems to slow down while you continue to move at normal. This is basically turns you into the Flash. You can run very, very fast with just the power of your mind. The psychic focus that you're going to get from celerity will increase your movement speed by 3 meters. This is pretty cool, but I don't really find too much use from it because we can also just use the abilities that we get here, like rapid step, quicken your steps, increasing your movement speed by 3 meters. You can use a bonus action and side points to just get that effect for fun. You can also use agile defense, improve your reflexes, gaining advantage on dexterity saving throws, and imposing disadvantage on incoming attacks. Really cool. You can get blur of motion, obscure your own movements, becoming invisible until the end of your turn. Really awesome. Surge of speed, hasten your steps, gaining the effects of the disengage action. But the main thing that we really want here, besides being able to use rapid step, is surge of action. Gain a surge of energy, granting you an additional action this turn. This ability is pretty much action surge. The best thing about it is that although it does take a bonus action and 5 side points, it does not recharge on a short rest, so we can just kind of do it as often as we want, as however many times we want to spend our side points and our bonus actions on it. Really powerful, really great, and it will come online for us when we get access to spend 5 side points at once, which isn't very far off. As we move on to level 4, we are going to get a new ability called Strength of Mind. This is going to allow us to pick a stat to gain proficiency in saving throws for pretty much at will. I usually roll with wisdom when I have this ability active. You can also switch it up if you know what sort of throws you have to make for an encounter. If you have a boss that is going to throw you a ton of strength saving throws, then go ahead and pop that one on. Or the same thing with intelligence or charisma. It's really just kind of, but I usually go with wisdom because wisdom saving throws are the most popular saving throw kind of in 5th edition in general. We are also going to be taking our first feat, and my first choice for this is definitely Great Weapon Master. When you land a critical hit or kill a target with a melee weapon attack, you can make another melee weapon attack as a bonus action that turn. Attacks with melee weapons you are proficient with and are wielding in both hands can deal an additional 10 damage at the cost of a -5 attack roll penalty, which can be toggled on and off. This is a really great feat to have. It just is going to allow us to do tons of damage because we're going to be using two-handed weapons pretty much all the time, so just give us an extra +10. Additionally, we're also going to be using that that augmented weapon concentration ability to give us another +3 to our attack rolls. So we're going to be able to offset 3 out of 5 of those of the -5 to our attack roll penalty, really. At level 5, we are going to pick out our new discipline, and for this level, I am going to suggest that we take an ability called Nomadic Grace. You imbue your weapons with the essence of the winds, delivering elegant yet deadly techniques upon your foes. This one's going to give us a few abilities. Example, we have Psychic Focus, Nomadic Grace, gain advantage on acrobatics checks. This one's cool, really not that useful for us. We have Gale Slash, release 2 razor-sharp gales of wind. This one's a really cool attack, but we don't really have much use for it unless you want to do a ranged attack for whatever reason. We have Quick Draw, which is a unique reaction ability that costs 3 psi points. After being targeted by an attack, you can teleport to the attacker and make a melee weapon attack. So this basically just allows us to, anytime we get attacked by anything, we can just teleport behind the enemy and then go boom, bang, easy, all on our reaction. So we're also going to gain Blessing of the Winds, bless a creature's melee weapons with the essence of the winds, increasing the range of their melee weapon attacks by 4.5 meters. Additionally, their melee weapon attacks deal an additional 1d6 psychic damage. This is until long rest. It's not concentration. You just apply this buff to yourself and or to whoever you want. We're going to be applying it to ourselves, and it's going to give us an extra 4.5 meters of melee range, which is absolutely insane. And we're also going to get an extra 1d6 psychic damage. So that, in combination with a bunch of other items and abilities, we are going to be doing a ton of psychic damage in addition to our weapon attacks. When we reach level 6, we are going to get our extra attack. More attacks means more damage, and that means more effects, more everything, really. There's not much more to say about it, so let's go ahead and move on up to level 7. At level 7, we are going to get a new discipline, and for this one, I am going to suggest that we scroll all the way down to the bottom, where we can get Transcendent Form. This is a really cool ability that is going to give us Psychic Focus Transcendent Form, reduce the number you need to roll a critical hit while attacking by 1. You could use this if you wanted to, but I don't really feel any pull which way towards this because I'm not crit fishing on this build. You also have Transcendence, transcend your physical form, increasing the range of your psionic talents and disciplines by 50% and doubling the duration of conditions. This one's pretty cool, but it's not super useful for our build. The main thing that we're going to be focusing on here is called Psychic Brand. Brand a creature with a psychic sigil, raising one of their stats to 19 unless it is already higher. Only one type of psychic brand may be active per target at a time. This is just going to let us dump any one of our stats that we want to here. I obviously haven't dumped them because I wanted to go into the stats, but if you take this, you can use this and apply a 19 to yourself. You could do it to dexterity and then give yourself a ton of points into constitution. You could do it into constitution and then take all your points and put them into dexterity. You could do the same thing with wisdom. It's really up to you. You can just apply it to yourself. It costs 6 psi points. And boom. And now that we're level 7, we can also spend 6 side points, I believe. Yes, we can spend 6 side points now, so we can use this. At level 8, we are going to get a really cool new ability called Psionic Strike. This is very similar to a Cleric's Divine Strike or a Paladin General Smite, since it adds 1d8 psychic damage in addition to your weapon damage once per turn, just for free. You can just do it, just in general. We're also going to be using a specific type of item in this game called the Resonance Stone, which is going to provide our enemies with vulnerability to psychic damage, so consider this 2d8. Great damage. Just for free on top of our weapons. We're also going to be picking our second feat, and at level 8, I'm going to be choosing an ASI for 2 points into Intelligence. You could also pick something like Alert if you wanted to, or whatever, but I'm going to go with 2 more points into Intelligence. At level 9, we are going to get another Psionic Discipline, and at this level, we are going to be taking an ability called Nomadic Step. You exert your mind on the area around you, twisting the intraplanar pathways you perceive to allow instantaneous travel. This is basically our discipline for straight-up teleportation. This is the Misty Step Dimension Door kind of equivalent for Mystics, but it comes with so much more than that. Starting off, you get to increase your movement speed by 3 meters after teleporting, stacks up to 5 times. I mean, it's cool, but it's really not useful for our build specifically because we're not going to be teleporting all the time. It's more of like a fire extinguisher in case something crazy happens. We have Step of a dozen places, teleport up to 6 meters. Boom. As you upcast this for additional side points, you can also increase the range. So you can spend 1 side point to teleport 6 meters. You can do 2 side points to bump it to, I don't know what the intervals are, but it's 6 meters, like 10 meters, 20 meters. You can go as far as you want, basically, within your side point limit. Defensive Step, when you are about to be hit by an attack, you can increase your armor class by 4, possibly causing the attack to miss, as well as gaining the effects of Disengage. This one's really cool. It's another reaction thing. If we don't want to attack, we can go ahead and do this and just kind of take the damage. There and back again, teleport up to 6 meters until the end of your turn. Your movement speed increases by 6 meters and you can cast back again. Back again just allows you to teleport right back to where you were without spending any movement speed. Transposition, swap positions with an ally. Pretty simple. Baleful Transposition, attempt to swap positions with an enemy. Same thing as the ally one, but the opposite. Phantom Caravan, reach out to the plains beyond and shift the location of surrounding allies. Until the end of your turn, you may cast Phantom Journey at will. Pretty cool. And Nomad's Gate, create 2 linked teleportation portals. Boom. We're probably not going to really use this, but it's nice to have if you want it. When we hit level 10, we are going to get a new ability called Consumptive Power. Tap into your own life force, regaining 7 side points, but reducing your maximum hit points by 7. So this is an ability that, in all honesty, I don't really use it very often because I don't like trading out my maximum hit points for side points. I'd rather just keep my hit points as high as I can. I also feel like we have plenty of side points and recovery to not really need this, so just not really something that I'm really concerned with. We're also going to get a new talent, and at this point you can take pretty much whatever you want. I'm going to take Blade Meld just because it's an easy pick. When we reach level 11, we are going to get our Psionic Mastery and 1 charge for it. Psionic Mastery enables us to use a psionic ability without expending side points, instead spending a mastery charge. So it's basically a free big attack. You can just upcast whatever you want to use and do the most powerful thing you can, and then be done with it. You only get it once because you have your mastery charge, so you might as well spend it on something useful. And finally, at level 12, we are going to be picking our last Psionic Discipline, and for this one, we are going to be taking the Mantle of Command. This is a really unique set of abilities that is going to allow our character to be the de facto commander of our party, massively buffing your allies during combat. Mantle of Command is going to give us access to coordinated movement, signal up to 5 allies to move as a unit, increasing their movement speed by 4.5 meters. So if you want to use, instead of doing something else on your bonus action, you can instead just buff your allies to go really fast. You could also Commander Sight, reveal a creature's weakness, giving advantage to attack rolls against this. This is really cool to use at the beginning of a round in combat and be able to put onto a boss, and then every single attacking ally that you have is going to have advantage on attack rolls against it. So boom, boom. Command to Strike, direct an ally to strike a foe. They can make an additional weapon attack on their next turn. Really great. We're not going to use this very often, but if you wanted to, you could. This character is going to be doing enough damage on their actions that there's not going to be anyone else who's really beating them with their action use. So the best use of our action is going to be attacking. Strategic Mind, exert an aura of trust and command, uniting your allies to move as a cohesive unit. Nearby allies can dash or disengage as a bonus action, or add 1d4 to each damage roll during their turn. That's really cool. It's going to allow them, your allies, to basically just get a cunning action, dash or disengage, and also to get a little bit of a bless effect to their damage rolls. Really great. And Overwhelming Attack, direct up to 5 allies to strike a foe. They can make an additional weapon attack on their next turn. So this one is kind of like Command to Strike, but it applies to 5 allies. So you can't apply this to your whole team if you have a huge party, but if you have just a regular sized party, you can do your whole team and they can do a free extra attack. So this one actually might be worth spending your action on, because it might be worth sacrificing the damage that you would do on your turn to instead have every single one of your allies do even more damage. And for our last feat, we are going to be taking one more ASI to get 2 more points into intelligence. We're going to max it out at 20 and go ahead and be done with it. You could also take Warcaster here for advantage on concentration, but I'm ultimately going to go with intelligence because I just want to have that 20 so we can max it out. That pretty much takes care of the leveling for this build. If you wanted to take this character up to level 20, you could definitely take 8 more levels of Mystic if you wanted. Additionally, you could take some levels of Rogue for some extra skills, or Fighter for heavy armor proficiency and action surge, or you could grab a few levels of Monk or something. It's really up to you. But by level 12, we have everything that this class needs, so everything else is just for fun and flavor. But let's go ahead and pop back out to take a look at some of the gear and equipment that Mystic Lae'zel will want to be using. When it comes to gear and equipment for the Mystic class, this mod includes some very powerful items that can be found throughout Faerun. You can find them at different vendors in Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3, and they get better as you kind of move along. Or the main things that we're looking for with this build can be found at Danthalon's Dancing Axe, at Worm's Crossing. Specifically, we are going to get a helmet piece called the Fount of Endless Knowledge. Fleeting power at the start of each turn while in combat, gain 2 psi points. These points are lost if not spent. So basically, what this means is every turn we have in combat, you're gonna want to spend 2 psi points, because otherwise you're gonna lose them. So keep that in mind. Basically, every time you do an attack, is you have 2 free psi points just for fun. We're also going to be grabbing the Cloak of Psionic Interference, which can be found at Danthalon's Dancing Axe. While concentrating, enemies within 9 meters will have disadvantage on Intelligence, Wisdom, and Charisma saving throws. So we're going to be in melee range all the time, and we're going to be concentrating a lot of the time, which means we're going to be imposing disadvantage on Intelligence, Wisdom, and Charisma saving throws just because we're doing our thing. We're also going to pick the Breastplate +2. You could go with any medium armor that you wanted. I went ahead and grabbed the Breastplate +2 just because it's a generic medium armor. That there's not really any specific effects that we can get from anything, but I wanted here to go with the 16 armor class and 1 less piercing damage, as well as a +1 bonus to dexterity saving throws and checks. You can really go with whatever you want here. We're also going to be using the Brain Drain Gloves. When you deal psychic damage, you also inflict mental fatigue for 2 turns. We're going to be dealing psychic damage pretty much all the time, so we're going to be inflicting mental fatigue left and right all the time. Mental fatigue is a really cool ability, a really cool effect that you can place on enemies. It's not often used in this game. It's kind of overshadowed by a lot of other abilities because psychic damage isn't super reliable in the base game, but otherwise mental fatigue is going to apply a -1 penalty to Wisdom, Intelligence, and Charisma saving throws for every turn remaining, and when it fails a Wisdom, Intelligence, or Charisma saving throw while having 5 or more turns of this condition remaining, the entity takes 1d4 psychic damage and is no longer mentally fatigued. So you're going to be applying this, and it's going to be decreasing their chance to pass a Wisdom, Intelligence, and Charisma saving throw, keeping in mind that they also have disadvantage on it, so that then when they ultimately fail it, they're going to take that 1d4 of damage. We're also going to be using the Resonance Stone, which is not currently in my inventory because I'd have to go back to Act 2 and get it, and I do not have it on this run at the moment. But regardless, the Resonance Stone is going to be an item that you can keep in your inventory, and is basically just going to the same way that this is imposing an aura in the area, it's going to impose disadvantage, or it's going to impose vulnerability on you and pretty much everybody in the area on for psychic damage. Most of the enemies aren't going to be doing psychic damage, but you are. You're going to be doing a lot of it. So we're going to be doing double damage with everything that does psychic, which is really great. So effectively, all that to say, that 1d4 from mental fatigue is going to become a 2d4. We're also going to be using the Boots of Psionic Movement. When a Githyanki casts Fly, their next melee weapon attack deals an additional 1d4 psychic damage. You get Githborn flying boots, so you can just kind of cast your fly and then do an additional 1d4 psychic damage. This one, we have other abilities that are more powerful than fly. Like, we have a lot of our teleports, but flying is also just very similar. And if we have the option, then we are going to go ahead and do our fly so that we can do an extra 2d4 psychic damage when we get the Resonance Stone. We're also going to be using the Strange Conduit Ring while concentrating on a spell. The wearer's weapon attacks deal an additional 1d4 psychic damage. So obviously we're concentrating pretty much all the time. And we're also going to be using the Resonance Stone. 1d4 psychic damage becomes 2d4 psychic damage. Additionally, we're going to be using the Ring of Mental Inhibition. When a foe fails a saving throw against one of your spells or actions, they gain mental fatigue for 2 turns. This is just going to give us another route for applying that mental fatigue, because we are going to be applying a bunch of different saving throws to our enemies based on the different effects that we apply to them and things like that. And they're also going to be failing them whenever they take the damage from the mental fatigue, I guess. For our weapons for this build, we are going to be taking probably the best weapon in the game, the Silver Sword of the Astral Plane. This is a weapon that normally you only get at the end of the game. There is a special way that you can get it pretty early in Act 1 if you go and find the Githyanki Patrol outside the mountain pass. And if you have a sorcerer with you, I recommend grabbing the command spell and using heightened meta magic in order to not guarantee, but to greatly increase the chances of you'll get advantage on the saving throw, or you'll impose disadvantage on the saving throw, basically. So you'll just get a huge bonus to your chance to make him drop the weapon. You're going to use command drop to be able to drop the weapon, and then you are going to go ahead and pick this up, because the Githyanki will not pick it up afterwards. This is going to apply an additional, when wielded by a Githyanki, this weapon deals an additional 1d6 psychic damage. So 1d6 times 2 for the Resonance Stone, plus this 1d4, 2d8, or 2d4, plus the 2d4 that comes from the mental fatigue, plus 1d8, 2d8, plus from our psionic strike. And for our necklace, we're going to be using the Periapt of Wound Closure. When downed, automatically stabilize at the start of the turn. When you are healed, you restore the maximum number of possible hit points. This character is just going to be taking a lot of hits because we are going to be deep in the middle of damage of combat. And even though we have an 18 for our AC, we are just going to be this character is probably going to want to be taking heals pretty often. So just because we're going to be taking heals, we're going to want to take as much healing as possible. And if we get downed, we're not going to want to go down. So before you start combat with the Mystic class every day, you're going to want to apply a few buffs to yourself. We are going to be starting by applying our Psychic Focus. For our Psychic Focus, we could use the Mantle of Command to gain the ability to cast Commander's Imperative once per turn, the Psionic Weapon, +1 attack rolls, movement speed gained by 3, advantage on acrobatics checks, increase our crit chance, or increase our movement speed by 3 meters after teleporting. But we are going to go with the +1 to weapon attack rolls because that will give us increased hit chance. We are then going to combine that with the Blessing of the Winds, plus a creature's melee weapons with the Essence of the Winds. We are going to, this one is not a concentration spell, but it's just a general buff. It's also going to apply a 1d6 psychic damage to our weapon and increase our melee range. Our melee range is now crazy long. We can hit her from all the way over here, Volo from all the way over here, whatever we want. We're then going to apply our Mystic Arsenal and choose the Great Weapon Fighting. This one is going to give us access to the Psychic Smite, which is going to do a ton of damage. In addition, we are then going to follow that up with the Augmented Weapon, which is our concentration slot, and it's going to add a +3 to our attack and damage rolls. And because we're concentrating, it's going to trigger our Strange Conduit Ring to give us an additional 1d4 in psychic damage to our attack rolls, or to our damage. We're then going to top it off by applying the Psychic Brand, and we are going to choose the Dexterity version. This is going to help keep us kind of safe from movement impairing effects, and also give us a huge boost to our initiative, and our if we were wearing a different type of armor, it would go to our armor class too. Actually, specifically because of that bonus, we are going to also put on the Armor of Agility, which is going to add your full Dexterity modifier to your armor class. So I'm going to change my armor type from that breastplate to the Armor of Agility, because we're going to make full use of that bonus to our Dexterity right there. Or of that bonus to our armor class. 21 is very good. So now that we have looked at the gear and the buffs, let's go ahead and pop this character over to combat and see what she can do. All right, so let's see what we can get her to do. So here you can see we are not even like within normal melee range, but we can hit this Mind Flayer just for fun. We are going to go ahead and hit him with a Psychic Smite. We're going to upcast it to 5th level for 27 to 72 damage. Also because we have 2 free psi points, so it's effectively only spending 3 of them. Let's go ahead and hit him and see what we can do. Boom! Critical hit, 33, 38, and 22. That is incredibly lucky, and we one-shot him. Let's go ahead and pop over to our next Mind Flayer here, and we have another Psychic Smite on our extra attack that we are going to also upcast to 4th level. We have advantage on it. Smack. 18, 29, and 3. That's a lot of damage. That's a lot of damage. We are going to... We could follow that up with a Surge of Action, but there's only one Mind Flayer left, so we're going to let a Flaming Fist see what they can do. Well, this guy's pretty much dead, but we're going to go ahead and teleport to this guy, right how? And when we get there, we're going to smack him. Boom! But that pretty much takes care of everything for this Mystic Order of the Blade build for our favorite Gith princess, Lae'zel of Crush Kalir. What do you think of this build? Is there anything that you would do differently with it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this, and I will see y'all in the next one.